Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. Enjoy! So, we're going to track the amount of eggs to make each amount of omelette. So 5 eggs makes 17 omelettes. And we're just going to find out how much is required, how many eggs is required to make 1 omelette. So we divide that by 17, divide both sides by 17. And so 1 omelette would be 0.294 blah 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 eggs. Next we want to see how many for 67 omelettes. And to get to 67 from 1 times 67, so do that to the amount of eggs, and we get 19.705 blah blah blah. Now you can't get 0.705 of an egg, we always round with eggs, and we always round upwards because if you need 19.7, 19 won't be enough, so we need to pick 20 eggs. We're going to start off by finding what the multiplier will be. So we will start off with 100%, and it's a decrease of 32.6%, so we're going to take that away, and that will leave the percentage as 67.4%. Next we need to convert that into a decimal. So we're going to divide it by 100, and that will make it into a multiplier. And the beauty about a multiplier is all we need to do is get the amount from the question, 486, and times it by the multiplier, and it will do all the hard work for us, and it will give us the answer of 327.56. So this question says that Adrian, Ben and Charlie have some sweets, and the ratio of Adrian to Ben to Charlie is 9 to 6 to 13. But it also says that Charlie got 56 more sweets than Adrian. So there's 56 more sweets. Well, looking at the actual parts of the ratio, there are 4 more parts. So plus 4 parts, which represent plus 56 sweets. So the 4 extra parts are worth 56 sweets. So 4 parts are worth 56 sweets. So 1 part would be 56 divided by 4, which is 14 sweets. So all we need to do now is work out how many parts there are. Well, there are 9 plus 6 plus 13 parts, which is 28. And each part is worth 14 sweets. So the total number of sweets will be 28 times 14. So 28 times 14 is 392. To find average speed, we do the total distance and we divide it by the total time. Now in this question we've got a bit of an issue because the question wants kilometers per hour, but the units are given to us in meters and minutes. So we just need to do some basic conversions. So 1080 meters is going to be 1.08 kilometers because there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer, so all we need to do is just divide the meters by 1,000. Minutes are a little bit trickier. To get from minutes to hours, all we need to do is divide by 60. And so when you divide that by 60, you get 0.2 hours. So we're going to put the kilometres at the top, 1.08, and we're going to divide that by the hours, which is 0.2. When you do that, you get 5.4. So our answer to 2 decimal places will be 5.40. Whenever you have a one-digit number or a 1 decimal place number, but you're asked to round it to 2 decimal places, you should really put a 0 on the end, which is what we've done. So we know that the equation of all linear graphs, which we have here, is going to follow the y equals mx plus c. And we need to find out what the m and the c are. So we're going to first of all work out what the gradient is. So that's going to be m. And the gradient is the change in y over change in x. And a different way we can write that is y2, so the y coordinate of the second coordinate, the y component in the second coordinate, take away y1, over x2, take away x1. And so y2 is going to be the y coordinate of the second component, which is there. That's going to be 40, take away y1, which is going to be 31. And then that's going to be over then the x component, so 24, take away 18, which is the x component for the first equation. So it's going to be 9 over 6, which is going to be 3 over 2, because just simple cancelling. So we know that m is 3 over 2, so we can actually just write out that that's going to be 3 over 2x, but we still don't know what the y-intercept is. So what we can do is have a look at the first coordinate, and for the first coordinate we've got an x and y coordinate, so we know what x and y are. So what I'm going to do is just write out the equation I've just written out, but instead of writing y, I'm going to write in 31. Instead of writing x, I'm going to substitute in the 18. So it's going to be 31 equals 3 over 2 times, and the x component was 18 for our first coordinate, and then we've got the plus c. And so all we need to do now is solve it. So there's going to be quite a few components here. We're going to do 3/2 of 18 first of all. So 3 over 2 times 18, well that's going to be 27. And then we're going to subtract 27 both sides. And when we do that, we get the fact that c equals 4. Now if we know what c equals 4, we can then substitute that into what we know. So it's 3 over 2x, and we know that c is 4, so it's going to be plus 4. Let's write that in our answer. So 3 over 2, it could be 3x over 2. You could put the x into the fraction, and then plus 4. So we're looking to write a formula for the cost in pounds of hiring a microwave for X amount of days. So the cost is C, so it's going to be C equals, and it says it's going to be 55 pence a day. Now it wants the answer in pounds, so we need to convert this 55 pence into pounds. So that's going to be 0.55, and it's going to be 0.55 times the amount of days. Well, it says the amount of days is X, so it's going to be 0.55x. Then it says that there's just a one-off cost of £15, so you're going to have to pay £15 regardless. So we're just going to add 15 onto that. So the answer would be C equals 0.55x plus 15. I'm just going to write the question out, so we've got a little bit bigger writing to play with here. And it doesn't actually matter which method you expand these brackets with. I'm going to use Smiles and Rainbows. So we multiply the 8 by the 10x, which will make 80x, and multiply the 8 by the 4, which will make 32. Now here we've got a minus 5 on the outside, so we do minus 5 times 8x, which is minus 40x, and minus 5 times minus 4, which is actually plus 20. And a lot of students will write take away 20 there, but that is a minus 5 on the outside of the brackets there. So it's minus 5 times the minus 4 there will give you a plus 20. Then 80x take away 40x, which will give us 40x. And 32 plus 20, which would be 52. So our answer would be 40x plus 52. The first piece of information I'm going to focus on is the fact Denver gets 8/19. Denver gets 8/19, that means that Engel and Fido together must get 11/19 because they have to add up to 1. So we're only looking at 11/19. I'm going to focus on the ratio next of Engel to Fido. So it's 9/5. And let's have a look and see, well, first of all, how many parts there are all together. So 9 plus 5, which is 14 parts. So there are 14 parts in total, and the share that they get is 11/19. So what I'm going to do is to find out what fraction one of those parts is worth by dividing 11/19 by 14. So each part is worth, and I'm just going to keep this into my calculator, 0.041 blah blah blah. And we're asked to find Fido's share. Well, Fido has 5 parts. So Fido has 5 parts, each of them worth 0.041 blah blah blah. I've kept it in my calculator to keep the accuracy. And when I do that, I get 0.206 blah blah blah. Now we're asked to work it out as a percent, so I'm just going to times that by 100. So we have 20.676 blah 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 percent, and it wants it rounded to the nearest percent, so that would be 20%. Or actually, it would be 21% because this would round it up, so 21%. To find the mean, we need to work out the sum of the numbers, basically what they add up to. And what we then do is divide that by the amount of numbers. Now, what this table is telling us is there are 14 students who got a time between 0 and 4 seconds. Now, it's absolutely impossible to work out what time those students got with the information in this table. So what we need to do is we need to assume they all got, say, 0 seconds or all got 4 seconds. And the fairest value to say that they all got is what we call the midpoint. And to find the midpoint, what you do is you add up the lower bound and the upper bound, so the highest value and the lowest value, add them together and divide by 2. So 0 plus 4 divided by 2, which is just 2. And that gives us a halfway number, which is fair to everyone. So the students roughly probably got 1s, 2s and 3s, and maybe a few 4s maybe. And the average of that is going to be 2, so that's fair for everyone. Same with the 4 and the 8. Halfway between 4 and 8 is 6. And you can add them together, 12 divided by 2, which is 6. Go down finding the midpoints. And we're just going to assume the students all scored the same amount, all got the same time. Then we're going to do our FS column. Okay, and so we're assuming that 14 students got a time of 2 seconds. So when you times those together, you get 28. And we're just going to times all of these together. Okay, next we're going to work out the sum of the FS. And to work that out, we just add all of these up together. So we're going to do 28 plus 36 plus 30 plus 126 plus 36. And when you add them all up, you get 256. Now, that will give us the sum of numbers, so we're going to put that into our working out now. And we need to find out how many numbers there are. Well, the frequency column will tell us how many numbers there are, so we're just going to add all of those up together. So we're going to find the sum of the frequency, which is 14 plus 6 plus 3 plus 9 plus 2, which is 34. And when we do 256 divided by 34, we get 7.529, blah, blah, blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so we're going to round it to 7.53. There's a lot going on with this question, so I'm going to start off just having a look at the total amount of money. So I'm going to do this in pence, so 2115 pence. And if each merit point is worth 3 pence, then we can work out the amount of merit points by doing 2,115 divided by 3. So that gives us 705. So there's 705 merit points. Next, have a look at the question here, this part here, where it says James has X merit points. Sarah has 4 times as many points as James, so she's going to have 4x. Robert has 69 fewer merit points than James, so he's going to have x minus 69. And we know that that equals 705 because we've just worked that out. And this feels like a solving coming on. So we've got x plus 4x plus x, which is 6x. Minus 69 equals 705. And we're going to add 69 to both sides. So we've got 6x equals 774. Then we're going to divide 6 both sides. And so we've got x equals 129. So x equals 129. That means James has 129. Sarah has 4 times more, so she will have 516. And Robert has 69 fewer, so we're going to take 69 away from that, and that will equal 60. So we're asked to find the bearing of Freetown from Gamley, so that is this angle here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to find this angle, and this will obviously be 90 degrees because the hiker walked west, and it's against the west line and the north line, so it's definitely 90 degrees. So we can work out what the bearing is if we know that angle inside the triangle. So we're going to start by labelling the sides. Well, we've got a 90 degrees here, we've got a hypotenuse here, we've got the adjacent here next to the angle, and we've got the opposite, which is across from the marked angle. Here we're not using the hypotenuse, so we can cross that out. And we can do our SOHCAHTOA. And the only one that doesn't have the hypotenuse is TOA. And so we're doing tan x equals the opposite, which is 49 over 98. Get our lines in. And we're going to do the inverse tan to both sides. So we get x equals, and we do inverse tan, which is 26.565, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we know that the whole of the way around up until this point is 270 because we've got this 90 degree left. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to work out the bearing. So bearing, we're just going to do 270, take away the 26.565, blah, blah, blah. And that gives us 243.434, blah, blah, blah. It says it wants it to the nearest whole number, so that's going to be 243. There are 2 shapes we need to find the volume of. There's this cylinder here and this hemisphere here. So we might as well start with this cylinder. And the formula for the volume is pi times r squared times height. So it's the radius is 9, so 9 squared times the height, which is 30. And when we work that out, we get 7,634.070, blah, blah, blah. Next is the hemisphere. To find the volume of the hemisphere, well, the volume of a sphere is 4/3 times pi times r cubed. But because it's a hemisphere, we just times that by a half. So it's half times 4/3 times pi times r, which is the radius, which is 9 cubed. And that gives us 1526.814 blah blah blah. And so the total volume is 7634.070 blah 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 plus the 1526.814 blah blah blah, which equals 9160.884 blah blah blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so when we round that we get 9160.88. So this question will probably need a Venn diagram just to make it a bit easier. So I'm going to draw a Venn diagram. You don't need to. If you can work out how to do this question without, you can do. But I think this is a really tricky question to do without a Venn diagram. So it says that they picked 2 activities. It was either painting, which I'll put as a P, and sport, which I'll put as an S. So let's start filling in the information it gives us. So 11 picked painting and sport, so that will go in the middle because that is painting and sport, and 11 didn't pick painting or sport, so they can sit on the outside. Now here's the problem. It says twice as many people picked sport than painting as one of their activities. So it's saying that the total number in, and let's just show it, the total number in the sport circle is twice as big as the total number in the painting circle. Now, what we can do is we can say, okay, so if the painting we label as X, then the sport will be 2X. But if you look, we've already got a number already in the sport, that 11 there. So in algebra, this will be 2X, take away the 11 that we already know about. And the painting is the same. We know the whole thing is X. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take away the bit we know there, which is the 11, and it will be X minus 11. Now we know that there are 66 students in total. So what we can do now is add up all of the parts of the Venn diagram and get it equal to 66. So X minus 11 plus 11 plus 2X minus 11 plus 11, and all of that will equal 66. This is going to be some solving, so we're just going to put our lines in. Now here we've got X plus 2X, which is 3X. And if I put my tool right, there we are. And we've got minus 11 plus 11, minus 11 plus 11. Well, those just cancel out. So we're left with just the 3X equals, and then 66. We're going to divide that 3 both sides. So we've got X equals 22. So if we go back to our Venn diagram now, we can fill in the blanks. So instead of X minus 11 there, we've got 22 take away 11, which is just 11. Instead of 2X minus 11 there, we've got 22 times 2, which is 44, take away 11, which will be 33. So it says, find the amount that picked sport and not painting, which is this 33 here. With this question, you've just got to know what the different functions look like. So with C and D, we've got quadratic functions. One's a positive quadratic, which is a U shape. One's a negative quadratic, which is a kind of upside down U shape or an N shape. And here we don't have that, so we can get rid of those in our thoughts straight away. A is a positive cubic, which goes up, then down, then up again. And B is a negative cubic, which goes down, up, and then down again. So this one here goes up, down, up again. That's going to be a positive cubic. So our answer is A. With these questions, it's normally easier to view these as 2 separate triangles. So we've got a small triangle here with 19 and 47. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this out. And we've got a bigger triangle here. And we've got, well, we've got a bit of, we don't really know what any of the sides are just yet, but we can work them out. Okay, now we know that both of these triangles are similar, and the reason is they share an angle and the lengths at the bottom are parallel, so they will be similar, which means one's an enlargement of the other. And we are given some information in the question that the ratio of BC to DE is 1 to 6. So BC is this length here, and DE is this length here. So we're actually given the scale factor because we know that 1 times 6 is 6. So we know the scale factor is 6, and it's asking us to find length AD. And so the corresponding length to AD, which is this one here. So all we need to do is get that 47, times it by the scale factor, so times it by 6 to get to our value. So it's 282. So to draw a box plot, we need 5 points. We need the lowest point, lower quartile, median, upper quartile, and highest point. Now we already have the lowest and highest points, so we can put those onto our box plot now. So the lowest point is at 0 and the highest point is at 30, as we can see on the cumulative frequency graph. So we need to now find out where the median is. Now the graph goes up to 20, the actual line goes up to 20, so the median we're going to find at 10. We're just going to draw a line across and down, and that looks like it is 17. So our median will be at 17. So we're just going to draw a line at 17. Get it just perfect. There we are. Okay, next thing we're going to look for the lower quartile. So if the median we drew a line across at 10, the lower quartile would do it at 5, which will be here. So that's at 12. So we're just going to draw a line up from 12. Fill in this box, and we can actually fill it in with the lowest point. And lastly, we need our upper quartile. And we do that by adding the 5 and the 10 together to make 15. So we're going to draw a line across from 15 and down. And that's 23. So a line up from 23. Try and get this as nicely as I can. I need to move that line a little bit. Oops. There we go. And let's fill in the last bit, join it up with the highest point. And there's our box plot. We're going to work out what the function fg is first. And functions actually queue up, so the first function will be g and then f. So we're going to first of all look at the function g, which will be 3x minus 3. And so it will be f of 3x minus 3. Okay, so all I've done there is fed in the x, which is inside the brackets, into the function g, and when you feed it in, it just becomes 3x minus 3, and it's even the same letter. Next, we want to feed in the 3x minus 3 into f of x, so where this x is here. So it's going to be 5 times 3x minus 3. Now, the question actually has this equal to 30 and asked us to solve it. So we're going to get that equal to 30. So 5 brackets 3x minus 3 equals 30. So we're going to get our solving lines in. Okay, we're going to start off by actually dividing the 5 both sides. We don't need to expand the brackets. We can actually just get rid of it by dividing the 5. And that will give us 6. going to add 3 to both sides to get rid of that minus 3. And that will give us 3x on the left hand side and 9 on the right hand side. Then we're going to divide by 3 to get rid of that 3 before the x. So it just becomes x equals 3. So answer is 3. I'm going to start by labelling this triangle. And so I'm going to pick a lowercase a here, uppercase A I mean, for the angle. And then we go opposite it to mark the length with a lowercase a. I'm going to do a capital B here and then go opposite it to do a lowercase b, and then obviously a capital C here and then a lowercase c here. Now notice the c's aren't involved in this question at all. It's just the capital A and the lowercase a and the capital B and the lowercase b. Now when you've got 2 pairs of angles and sides, you're going to be using the sine rule. Now the sine rule is either sine A over A or it's A over sine A. Now when we're looking for a length, we put the length on the top. So it's going to be lowercase a over sine capital A equals lowercase b over sine capital B. Okay, so we're going to fill in the values. So A is x, capital A is 38, lowercase b is 4, and uppercase B is 67. Now you'll only ever sine an angle, so if you ever put a 4 in there or something, that's not going to be right straight away. Okay, let's work out what 4 over sine 67 is, and that's 4.345 blah blah blah. So we're going to solve this. It's going to be a nice easy solve today, because all we need to do is times both sides by sine 38. And so that will give us 2.675, blah, blah, blah. And when we round that, we get 2.68. To find the length of the rectangle, what we're going to do is we're going to get the area and we're going to divide it by the width. Now, the question says that it wants the minimum length. So we want the length to be as small as possible. Obviously to do that we want the area to be as small as possible. If the area is smaller, the length will be smaller. But let's have a look at a couple of fractions. So let's have a look at a half and 1 over 100. Which one of those fractions is the smallest? Well, it's 1 over 100. But what do you notice about the denominator? That as the denominator gets bigger, the fraction gets smaller. So to make something smaller, we actually want the denominator to be as big as possible. So we want the width to be as large as possible. So we're going to find the lower bound of the area. And an easy way to find a lower bound is find the accuracy. Well, it says the accuracy is to the nearest 10. And what we're going to do is half that. So half of 10 is 5. And then we're going to take it away from the area. So it's 98,540, take away 5, which will be 98,535. Now for the width, we're going to do the same thing, half the accuracy, half of 10 is 5, but we're looking for the upper bound, we're looking for the biggest it can be. So we're going to add that on, 1, 2, 3, 5. And when you do that calculation, you get the answer of 79.78542, blah, blah. And it says it wants it to 4 decimal places. So we're going to do 79.7854. So we're going to start by finding the multiplier. So we start off with 100%. It says it's decreasing at a rate of 8.1%. So we're going to take away the 8.1%. And then when we do that, we get 91.9%. Make that a multiplier by dividing it by 100, essentially making it a decimal. So whenever we get a number and we times it by 0.919, we're decreasing it by 8.1%. Now, there aren't any amounts given to us in this question, so we're just going to make one up. We're going to say that the population is 100, okay? And what we're going to do is type in 100 into our calculator, and then we're going to press the equals button. Now what that does is it stores the 100 in the calculator's memory. And it's basically, it's this next line that's the crucial bit. We're going to type in answer, which at the moment is that 100, times 0.919. And what that does is it says what the current answer is, we're going to decrease it by 8.1%. We're going to times it by that multiplier. And so every time we press the equals button, what it's going to do is it's just going to keep decreasing it by 8.1%. And we're going to count the amount of times we've got to press the equals button, because every time we press the equals button, it counts as a year. So when we first press it, it's going to be 91.9. Then press it again, it's going to be 84.4. So we're waiting for it to be beneath 43%. So if we started off with 100, we're looking for it to be below 43. So keep pressing it, keep pressing it. On the 9th year, we get 46.7, so that's close to that 43. Press it again, and we get 42.9. So it's 10 years. It's 10 times you've got to press it to get it beneath the 43. The first thing to notice is we actually have two radii here. So we've got this radius here and this radius here. And all radii are always equal in length. So we have an isosceles triangle here. So this angle here is going to be 19x as well. And we've got to write that down. So we're going to say angle OBA is equal to 19x. And the reason is it's an isosceles triangle. Okay, so we know these two are equal. Well, we also can work out x because, as I said before, we have a triangle here. And all angles in a triangle add up to 180. So we've got 7x plus 19x plus 19x equals 180 degrees. And this is angles in a triangle. Try and draw a better triangle, equal 180 degrees. Try and write out these reasons in full. Okay, so that's going to be, was it 45x equals 180. And let's get our solving lines in. And we're just going to divide both sides by 45. Okay, so we've got x equals 180 divided by 45, which is 4. Now, we're looking for this angle here. That's angle ABC. Now, there's a few different ways we could do this. We could work out what this angle is, because it's a big triangle, etc., etc. Or we can use the fact that we've got a tangent touching a radius. So we know that this, let's just pick a different colour, this angle here is 90 degrees. So we can write that down. So angle OBC equals 90 degrees, because it's the angle between a tangent and a radius. Again, make sure you write all the reasons in full. And so therefore, angle ABC, which is what we're asked for, is just 90 take away the 19x. Well, we know that 19x is 19 times 4, because we know that x is 4. And so that would be 76, so in total it would be 14 degrees. So angle ABC is 14 degrees. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is just a quick sketch of this diagram. So we're told the lengths are 8 and 6, and the angle between the lengths is 64 degrees. And we've kind of got a missing length down here, which we need to find. So we need to find that one. Okay, so let's label them. Now we're going to be using the cosine formula. So cosine formula involves angle A. So we're going to label the angle A. And the one opposite, the one we label as A, is going to be little a. And then little b and little c, it doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter which way around you do them. So we're going to write down the cosine formula. So it's a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. And so that would be x squared equals, and that will be 8 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 8 times 6 times cos 64. And that will be x squared equals 57.916 blah blah blah. And we just need to solve this, and we can solve it by just square rooting both sides. So it would be x equals 7.61000 blah blah blah. Okay, we're asked for the perimeter, and so we need to do 8 plus 6 plus that 7.610 blah blah blah. I've still got on my calculator, and that equals 21.610 blah blah blah. It says it wants its 2 decimal places, so it will be 21.61. Whenever you're asked to work out a proportion of items in a histogram, you can actually do it by just counting the squares. So in the first bar, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 squares here. The next one, you've got kind of 4 half squares, so that will be 2 squares in total. And then we've got 4 squares in the last one. So altogether we have, for the amount of squares, we have 12 plus 2 plus 4, which will be 18. So it's 18 squares in total. Now it says that we're looking for between 25, which will be here, and 45, which will be here. So we count the squares in this little interval. So there are 3 here, and there's half a 1 here. So the squares between 25 and 45, I should say dash 45, 25 to 45 is 3.5. Okay, so we've got 3.5 in total, or 3.5, out of a possible 18. So we just need to do 3.5 divided by 18 to work out the proportion, and that gives us 0.194 blah blah blah. It says it wants its 2 decimal places, that would be 0.19. There are 2 shapes we're interested in this question. There's this sector here, which we can work out the area of, and there's this triangle here, which we can work out the area of. What we do is we work out the area of the sector, and then we subtract the area of the triangle. So I'm going to start off by working out the area of sector. And we know that that is the angle that we have of the circle times by the area of the full circle. So the angle we have is 39 over 360. And then we've got pi times 10 squared. Type that into your calculator and you get 34.033 blah blah blah. Next we're going to find out the area of the triangle. And we use the, well, if you have a look at the triangle, we've got 10 centimeters here because that is also a radius of the circle. So we've got 2 lengths and we've got an angle, so we can use the half AB sine C formula. So we've got half AB sine C. And so A and B are going to be our lengths, and C is going to be this angle here. So we've got a half times 10 times 10 times sine the angle, which is 39. Then when you work that out, you get 31.466 blah blah blah. Okay, so to work out the area of the segment, all we're doing is the area of the sector, like the full area, take away the bit we don't want, which is the triangle, and that will leave us the area of the segment. So we're going to do the 34.033 blah blah blah, take away 31.466 blah blah blah. And what I've done is I've saved them on my calculator so I can do it precisely. And when you subtract them, you get 2.567 blah blah blah. Once it's two decimal places, so we're just going to round that to 2.57. We're asked to solve this quadratic. It doesn't look like a quadratic yet, but I'm sure it will do at some point. Now, the first thing with this question to focus on is the fractions. We're not going to be able to do anything with this question with those fractions there. And normally, if you see fractions or brackets in a question, the first thing you want to do is get rid of those. So I'm going to start by just copying the question down. So we've got 2 over, and let's just do the other over while I'm here. So we've got 2 over x minus 5. So we've got to get rid of the x minus 5, and we've got to get rid of this x plus 5. We've got plus 8 equals 0. And I'm going to just shift down so we've got loads of space here to be able to do this question, because this is going to be quite a lengthy question. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the fraction on the left hand side, and the way of doing that is I'm just going to times both sides by x minus 5. Now when you times both sides by something and there's more than one term on one of the sides, you've got to times each of the terms. So we're going to start by timesing the left hand fraction. Well, that will just get rid of the x minus 5 and just leave 2. Then we're going to times the second fraction. So when you times something by a fraction, you just times the numerator. So it becomes 5 brackets x minus 5 over x plus 5. And then we're going to times this 8. In fact, let's just try and keep our pluses consistent. So it'd be 8 brackets x minus 5. Now 0 times anything is just 0, so this will just remain as 0. Okay, next we're going to times by the x plus 5 to get rid of that fraction. Both sides. So this will leave us with 2 brackets x plus 5. That will get rid of this fraction here, and we'll just leave the x minus 5, and then this will become 8 brackets x minus 5 brackets x plus 5. And 0 times anything is just 0. Okay, next thing we need to do is multiply out these brackets. So we're left with 2x plus 10 plus 5x minus 25 plus 8x minus, that's a quadratic, so that will be plus, let me try and work it out quickly, it was 8x squared plus 0x minus 200 equals 0. Now notice here in the brackets it's a difference of 2 squares. You've got an x minus 5 and an x plus 5, and difference of 2 squares end up with 0, the coefficient of x being 0. So that's not really a surprise. Collect the like terms, so we've got 8x squared, and that's the only x squared we've got. We've got the 2x and the 5x and the 0x, so we've got a 7x. And we've got we've got plus 10, minus 25, and a minus 200. So what's that? That's minus 215 equals 0. Now, normally when you look at it it doesn't look like it will factorise. If this is on the calculator paper, chances are it will be a question on the on using the quadratic formula. If you look back at the question as well, the biggest clue is it asks for the answer to be to 2 decimal places, so it clearly won't factorise. So we are using the quadratic formula. So for our quadratic formula, we need to know what a equals, and a is the coefficient of the x squared, so a equals 8. We need to know what b equals, and that's the coefficient of the x, so that's 7, and we need to know what c equals, and that's the number at the end, which will be minus 215. So the quadratic formula is x equals minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and all of that over 2a. So what we're going to type into our calculator will be minus bracket 7. Now I always put them into brackets. You don't need to with this when it's positive, but when it's negative it really does help. Minus 4 times, and then a is 8 times, and then c is minus 215. And students get into problems when they don't put them into brackets. But if you put them into brackets, you'll always be covered. Okay, so to do this, you type that into your calculator with a plus, and you type it into your calculator with a minus. When you type it into the calculator with a plus, you get 4.765, blah, blah, blah. And when you type it into the calculator with a negative, you get minus 5.640, blah, blah, blah. And so that will lead to the solutions of 4.77 to two decimal places, and minus 5.64 to 2 decimal places. So we're going to just quickly write out our sequence, so 9, 22, 41, 66 and 97, and we're going to find the differences of each of them. So that's going to be plus 13, then we've got plus 19, so they're different already, we know that it's not a linear sequence, and that's going to be plus 31. So we now look at the difference of the differences. And so we've got plus 6 again, and plus 6 again. When you have a difference of differences, it's going to be a quadratic sequence. And we're interested in what the difference of differences is, because what we now do is get that 6 and we always halve it, and it gives us 3. Now that 3 is actually really important, because that is the coefficient of the n squared. So we know our sequence will begin 3n squared. So we're going to do a table now to see what the rest of the sequence will be. And we're going to have our term number and our sequence. So term numbers will just be first, second, third, fourth and fifth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The sequence is just 9, 22, 41, 66 and 97. Now we know that 3n squared is part of our sequence. So what we're doing now is just removing the 3n squared bit and see what we have left over. So we're going to do 3 times 1 squared, which will be 3. 3 times 2 squared, which will be 12. And then 3 times 3 squared, 27. 3 times 4 squared, 48. 3 times 5 squared, 75. And we're just going to remove that from our sequence. So we've got our sequence, and we're removing the 3n squared bit, because we know what that is. We've already answered that part. So 9 take away 3 is 6. 22 take away 12 is 10. So they're not the same with this. 14, 18, 22. Now what do you notice? Well, we notice that these ones here are going up in 4s, so we've got a linear sequence here. So they're going up in 4s, so we know that that will be plus 4n, and then we find the 0th term, so we go back, so 6 take away 4, which will be 2, so it's going to be 4n plus 2. So our total quadratic sequence will be 3n squared plus 4n plus 2. Okay, so we're going to start by creating a cuboid, just so we can kind of visualize what's going on a little bit easier. And so the lengths on the cuboid, it says, are 14, 10, and 8. Doesn't matter which way around. Now the longest part of the cuboid will be the diagonal across it. So if I just show a diagonal there, and it doesn't really matter which one we pick. Ooh. I could pick this one here, go diagonal like that. They're all the same length, all the diagonals across. So the rod will be, if it's the maximum length of the rod, it will be along this diagonal. So we can first of all have to work out what this length here will be, and then we can use the fact that this is 8 here and work out what the length of the diagonal is. So I'm going to call this x, and I'm going to call the diagonal y, just so we've got something to refer to in our working out. And it might be helpful that this side here is 10. So we've got a right angle triangle, because this is right angled here, and we're looking for the value of x. So we know that we're going to be using Pythagoras, because we've got 2 lengths and we're looking for a third length. So it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So it would be 10 squared plus 14 squared equals c squared. And it's actually not c, we've called it x, so why don't I stay consistent, equals x squared. So I'm going to do 100 plus 196, which would be 296 equals x squared. And get our lines in. Should be quite easy because we just need to square root both sides. So I'm just going to square root that, and we get an answer of 17.20 blah blah blah. Now I'm going to keep that value in the calculator itself, because I'm going to use that to find out what y is, our diagonal. So the next thing we're going to do is, we know what this is, and this creates a right angle triangle here, and so we're just going to do exactly the same thing again. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Our a is 8, so 8 squared plus, and then we've got 17.20 blah 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 squared equals, and then we're looking for y, so y squared. Now if I square the value that's in my calculator from before, the 17.20, and if I just click square it, it will put it back to 296, because I've square rooted it and then I'm just squaring it again. So it would be 64 plus 296 equals y squared. So I'm just going to add them together, which will be 360. And again, I'm just going to put my solving lines in. Not too difficult to solve this. Make it a bit nicer, because I'm just going to square root both sides. So I'm going to square root this, and it gives me the answer of 18.9736 blah 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 equals y. Now it says it wants the answer to 2 decimal places, so it would be 18.97 to 2 decimal places. Now a different way we could have done this is we could have worked out y straight away by working out the, like, I don't know what to call them. I'm gonna label them A, B, and C. So A, B, and C. And what you can do is you can do the y squared equals a squared plus b squared plus c squared. It's basically the width squared plus the length squared plus the height squared. And so we would have had 14 squared plus 10 squared plus 8 squared. And when you've done that, you would have got 360. And this would be y squared equals. And then when I put the solving lines in, I would have done the same thing, square rooted both sides, and you obviously would get the 18.973 blah 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 again, and then you would have written down the answer. So there's 2 different ways of doing that. Obviously this way is a lot quicker, but you have to just remember that if you've got 3 lengths on the cuboid and you'll ask for the diagonal, then this formula here can be a much quicker way of finding the answer. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.